Good name or fancy title for the message, so it's just called Mother's Day, okay? You have a few simple notes in your bulletin. Looking at the scriptures you see listed. So today, of course, we are here first to worship the Lord, and we've been doing that. And secondly, to honor our mothers. Not only are we commanded to honor our mothers, it's also a sensible and loving thing to do. Many of us here today wish we still had our mothers living so we could honor them and remember them and love them, but most are gone. Ephesians 6, 1-3 says this, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you and you may live long on the earth." I must confess that preparing a Mother's Day message is perhaps the hardest message that I do all year long. And can attest to how many hours I spent in my study working on this message. Why? Because of all the mixed emotions that surround Mother's Day. On one hand, I have great memories of my mother and of my mother-in-law and of my grandmother, and especially of my wife, Ann. It's okay to brag on my wife, isn't it? Yes. I don't do it often enough, I know. And now I see our two daughters being great mothers, and their daughters being great mothers, which makes us great grandparents. That's amazing right there, isn't it? We're too young to be great grandparents. On the other hand, I see mothers who are anything but good mothers. And they leave lasting scars on their children. I see women who wanted to be mothers, but were unable for one reason or another. I see others who choose not to have children. I see women who never marry, but become mentors of other younger women. So it's a mixed bag of emotions and circumstances and life choices. And for many, Mother's Day is just a day they would just prefer to stay away. Just don't be around these mothers that are celebrating being mothers. So if you're a woman here today or watching online later, I just want you to feel love today, whether you're a mother or not, or whether you had a great mother or not. So let me lighten the atmosphere a bit and start with this. A 6-year-old boy, separated from his mother at one of these big supermarkets, began to call out frantically, "Martha! Martha! Martha!" And that was his mother's name. And she came running to him quickly, recognizing his voice. And then she said, "But honey," kind of in a soft, admonishing way, "you shouldn't call me Martha. You know to call me Mommy." "Yes, I know," he answered, "but this store is full of mothers." And, well, he's right. Our world is full of mothers, but we have only one mother that gave us birth. And that makes her special right there, doesn't it? And many of us have others, as I mentioned, other mother figures, other that we maybe call mother. Might be a stepmother, a mother-in-law, a variety of things. But mothers, I can't resist one more. lighthearted before I get into the heavier stuff. Things our mothers taught us. My mother taught me to appreciate a job well done. If you're going to kill each other, do it outside. I just finished cleaning the kitchen floor. My mother taught me about religion. You better pray that'll come out of the carpet. My mother taught me about time travel. If you don't straighten up, I'm going to knock you into the middle of next week. My mother taught me logic. Because I said so, that's why. Some of these are sounding familiar, aren't they? My mother taught me foresight. Make sure you wear clean underwear in case you're in an accident. My mother taught me irony. Keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about. My mother taught me about the science of osmosis. Shut your mouth and eat your dinner. Get that one? Took me a minute. Kind of hard to eat with your mouth shut. My mother taught me about stamina. You'll sit there until all that spinach is gone. Or it might be something else. Peas. My mother taught me about weather. This room of yours looks as if a tornado went through it. My mother taught me the circle of life. I brought you into this world and I can take you out. Sounds more like my mother-in-law all the time. Oh. My mother taught me about behavior modification. Stop acting like your father. My mother taught me about envy. There are millions of less fortunate children in this world who don't have wonderful parents like you do. My mother taught me about anticipation. Just wait till your father gets home. My mother taught me about receiving. You're going to get it when you get home. My mother taught me medical science. If you don't stop crossing your eyes, the wind will change and you'll stay like that. My mother taught me how to become an adult. If you don't eat your vegetables, you'll never grow up. My mother taught me genetics. You act just like your father. My mother taught me about my roots. Shut that door behind you. Do you think you were born in a barn? My mother taught me wisdom. When you get to my age, you'll understand. My mother taught me about justice. One day, you'll have kids, and I hope they turn out just like you. I've never heard that one, have you? I'll stop. On Mother's Day, we can't say enough good things about our mothers, but we'll try. I want to share 3 brief thoughts here about her hands that work, her mouth speaks, and her heart loves. First, her hands work. Boy got his first job. He was boasting about the amount of work he did. And he said, I get up at 5 a.m. and I have my breakfast. And he was asked, does anyone else get up too? He replied, oh yeah, Mother gets up and fixes breakfast and then fixes Dad's breakfast. And what about your dinner? The boy said, oh, Mother fixes that too. Does your mother have the afternoon to herself? The boy replied, no, Mama cleans the house, looks after the other children, and then gets supper for me and Dad when we come home. Then we watch TV before we go to bed. What about your mother? What does she do? The boy replied, Mama washes some clothes and irons the rest of the evening. Do you get paid? Well, of course. Dad and I get paid. What about your mother? Doesn't she get paid too? The boy replied, Mother get paid? No, she don't get paid. She don't do any work. This young man was clueless about the value of his mother, and I fear there are too many mothers that are taken for granted. So let's look at a few extra scriptures. I mentioned the first one. The second is Proverbs 31. And I'm not going to read the whole chapter of Proverbs 31, but just pick a few things out. And why would I do it that way? Have you read Proverbs 31 lately? It's like you have to be Superwoman to do all these things. It's a little intimidating. I'm not trying to knock the scriptures here, but it's intimidating. So let's look at a few examples here. In Proverbs 31, we see that mothers do all kinds of work. This mother, she sews, verses 13, 19, 22. She selects wool and works with eager hands. She shops, verse 14, bringing her food from afar. She cooks, verse 15. She provides food for her family. She gardens, verse 16. She plants a vineyard. Our text also says that mothers, verse 15, get up while it's still dark to prepare food. Verse 18, her lamp does not go out at night. What's that old say? Man works from sun to sun, but woman's work is never done. Verse 27, she watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. She is not lazy. Now, wow. I was thinking back to when I was born in 1947. Of course, I don't remember that, but I know the era. I know 1947, there were no Pampers, right? There were cloth diapers, which meant that those dirty cloth diapers weren't just thrown away. They had to be washed. And you just didn't throw it in a fancy washing machine and then into a fancy dryer and you're done. No. It's either a rug board or an old wringer washer. And there was nothing fancy in our homes. No extras. But I do know my mom worked hard. She cooked meals. Fried chicken, biscuits, and gravy. I can see it now. She cleaned house, washed clothes, ironed clothes. Sometimes I had to sprinkle clothes. Sometimes I had to do dishes after a meal until I got my first paper route when I was 10. Get up at 4:30 and deliver the papers on a bicycle, and I earned some money, and I would pay my sister Kathy, 3.5 years younger than me, to do my dishes when my turn came around, because we swapped places. So, but that's the only way I got out of doing dishes for a little while. But my mom raised 3 kids, all 3.5 years apart. Sometimes she was a full-time wife and mom, and sometimes she had to work outside the home, plus do all the other stuff too. So she was a hard worker, and many of you can relate. You know about those days. Look at the second. Her mouth speaks. Proverbs 31:26. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. I will add another scripture here, 2 Timothy 1:5, where Paul, talking to Timothy, says, I call to remembrance the genuine faith that is in you, which dwelt first in your grandmother Lois, and in your mother Eunice, and I'm persuaded is also now in you. When preacher John Wesley was a student at Oxford University, he was shocked by the amount of drinking done by the students. Wonder what he would think about college students today. I remember when I went to Chico way back in the late 60s that Chico was voted as #1 party school in the country by Playboy magazine. And I missed it. I was so busy working and trying to be a father and a husband, I missed it. Well, I was a Christian too. That might have had something to do with it. But after writing to his mother, Susanna Wesley, for her counsel, John Wesley received the following words. My dear son, remember that anything which increases the authority of the body over the mind is an evil thing. Great instruction, wouldn't you say? And I'm sure that Susanna Wesley said a lot of other good words of wisdom to her children. A London editor submitted to Winston Churchill for his approval a list of all those who had been Churchill's teachers. He was going to do a biography of Winston Churchill. And Churchill returned the list with this comment, you have omitted to mention the greatest of my teachers, my mother. Preacher G. Campbell Morgan had 4 sons, and they all became ministers of the gospel. At a family reunion, a friend asked one of the sons, which Morgan is the greatest preacher? And while the son looked at his father, he replied, Mother. Mother was the greatest preacher. Many mothers have done a lot of preaching to their kids, whether they consider it preaching or not. I don't remember much that my mother taught me as a young boy in the way of spiritual things. She taught me morals. She was my Cub Scout leader, my Boy Scout leader, den mother in both of those occasions when we lived in Texas. So I did learn some moral values, but I didn't learn about Jesus from my parents. And that's kind of sad. But I do remember her washing my mouth out with soap a number of times, which meant she was trying to fix something in me that was already developing that was not good. How many of you have had your mouth washed out with soap? Raise your hand. Oh, several of you, okay. It's not a pleasant experience, is it? The third thing her heart loves, back to Proverbs 31:11 through 12. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. If a husband has full or complete confidence in his wife, then you know that she's a woman that loves her man. An epitaph on a wife's tombstone written by her husband after 60 years of marriage reads, she always made home happy. Pretty good epitaph. A grandmother was telling her granddaughter good night when the little girl said, Mommy and Daddy are entertaining some very important people downstairs. You're right, Grandma agreed, but how did you know? Just listen, the little granddaughter said. Mommy is laughing at all of Daddy's jokes. So now you can where there's a lot of laughter at home, you just know there's something good happening there. There needs to be more laughter in the home, wouldn't you agree? Proverbs 17:22 says, a cheerful heart is good medicine. When there's a lot of laughter in the home, someone is putting in some good medicine, and it shows a lot of love. Teacher at school put this question to little James in math class. She said, James, suppose your mother made a cherry pie, and there were 10 of you at the table, your mother and father and 8 children. How much of the pie would you get? A ninth was his answer. No, James. Now pay attention. There are 10 of you in the home. Don't you know your fractions? Yes, ma'am, he replied. I know my fractions, but I know my mother even better. And she'd say that she didn't want any pie. The unselfishness of a mother shows a heart of love for her family, and all of us can remember many unselfish acts of love our mamas made to our homes. Thomas Edison once said, I did not have my mother long, but she cast over me an influence which has lasted all of my life. The good effects of her early training I can never lose. If it had not been for her appreciation and her faith in me at a critical time in my experience, I should never likely have become an inventor. I was always a careless boy, and with a mother of different mental caliber, I should have turned out badly. But her firmness, her sweetness, her goodness were potent powers to keep me in a right path. My mother was the making of me. The memory of her will always be a blessing to me. What a loving tribute to a blessed mother. Proverbs 31:28. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, he praises her. Notice the phrase, her husband also. I want to brag on Ann a moment. When we married in June of 1965, I promised her that if she would work to put me through college, that I would support her the rest of her life financially. And she was working at the Coosa County Library, and she continued to work there for the next 3 years while I was attending college, full-time, working part-time, and then I'd work summers. But when she became pregnant with our first child, the 3rd year of college, and began having morning sickness regularly, I marched into the head librarian's office. Some of you remember Gail Cousins. And I told her that Ann was officially quitting. And then in December of 1968, 3 years later, we became parents. In December of 68, we became parents of Dina, the first one. And 3 years later, December of 71, our second daughter was born. And in those 3 years, I finished my last year of college and then 2 years in the Army. And our years in the Army was interesting. So I was employed by the Department of Defense, right? And our pay back then was so low that we also qualified for food stamps. The Department of Welfare was supplementing the Department of Defense, which is kind of weird. And so she went with me to Fort Lewis, to Tacoma, and those 2 years we ministered to teenagers at a Baptist church here in Tacoma in my off time from the Army. And we were very poor financially, but we continued to minister to teenagers through our college and Army years, and got out of the Army, moved to Meridian, went to work driving truck for my dad, and just a few months later he was killed tragically in a truck wreck. And I had 2 daughters and a wife to support. Remember, I promised her she'd never have to work outside the home again. I'm in it. I started scrambling, got a job at the Coosa Welfare Department. 90-day probation, though. On the 89th day of my work, the welfare director fired me. I think that's the only time I ever got fired. Because I was witnessing to my coworkers at lunchtime. Yeah. So that created another crisis. No income. I was praying at an altar at the Baptist church in Coosa. And God very clearly spoke and said, go to seminary, prepare for full-time ministry. That was it. And so I quickly tried to get into seminary, and they said, it's too late this year, you gotta wait. I said, no, God told me, you gotta figure out a way to let me in. Well, they did, they let me in that fall. And it was campus on the Strawberry Point overlooking San Francisco, kind of a hill, and the Golden Gate Seminary was on that hill, and it's a bunch of apartments that we lived in a duplex, and the 2 girls are there with me. And she was moved from here to there, and basically in isolation, those 3 years, pretty much by herself raising our 2 small girls, because I was working jobs plus studying pretty much full time. So those were difficult years. I didn't realize how difficult till later. And she suffered those years. And then things got a little better. We got our first full-time church in 1975 in Ripon, and we were there 5 years while I finished up my doctorate, and it was a great ministry, And then we moved to Merced, and then Indio, and then down there the heat started causing serious health issues, heart palpitations, and just her doctor said, you got to get out of here, you're going to die. And then from there to Lincoln, and then from Lincoln to where we live now, and I pastored in Marysville, and then Coosa and Baptist, and now here. So all those pastures where she would be uprooted and moved here and there, and she was always faithful in working with me. She worked a lot with children and teenagers. Beautiful ministry for many, many years. Now, of course, our age has slowed us down dramatically. We don't do near the things we used to do. But you know what? She has ministered to literally hundreds and hundreds of people over the years. And she's got a reward waiting for her in heaven, I know that. I could go on and on. But I have never known a woman that deserves being honored as a mother as much as my wife. She has surpassed her own mother. She has surpassed my mother in my estimation as I see what they've done in their lives. And I just want to say thank you. Happy Mother's Day. I want to mention one more scripture, which is a valuable reminder that we as Christians are part of a family. So listen to what the Apostle Paul said to Timothy in 1 Timothy 5:1. Do not rebuke an older man, but exhort him as a father. Younger men as brothers. Older women as mothers. Younger women as sisters with all purity. I'm glad we've been a part of a family over the years. Family, the locations have changed, but all part of the family of God. All brothers and sisters. Some of them have been not very nice. Some of them have been beautiful blessings, as has this congregation to us. And so we're to treat each other as family, as mothers and brothers and fathers and sisters, being part of a family. I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning singing this song. So I got it and changed it. The last song in your bulletin is not Count Your Blessings. It's Because He Lives, because of that one verse. So let's sing that now. And then I want to give all of you ladies just a token of love here in a moment. So don't run off till I can give you that. Mary Ann, if you can hear me, would you come on back out?
She can't hear you. When the music starts, she can come out.
Will she?
She can't hear you.
Mary Ann! Okay. Give me an excuse to get a drink.
She's coming.
God sent His Son. They called Him Jesus. He came to love, heal, and forgive. I know there's a tradition about different flowers for mothers that are living and for all of that stuff. Ignore all that. That's not what this is about. This is just something that Ann and I put together to say we love you, we appreciate you, and it's not just for mothers, it's for all of our ladies, because you have a mother, so you get one, right? And then there'll be some left over for some of you men that might want to take, for instance, we thought of Neil, you might want to take one to Vicky's grave. And Richard, you might want to take one to Brenda when you see her next. You know, that sort of thing, okay? So, just I love you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Bless you.
All right, thank
In honor of Vicky. We love you, Vicky. Tom, do you have someone you Hmm? Oh, yeah. Now we got enough left for Bonnie and Helen. All right. Well, amen, we're done, yes. I feel